Spirit of God in the clear running water, blowing to greatness the trees on the hill. Blow, blow, blow till I feel the breath of the Spirit blowing in me.
Hello, welcome to Spirit of Life. My name is Geraldine Lee, your host, and our guest is Tibor Deheny. He is the Publicity Co-ordinator of Call of Guadalupe Theatre Group. Welcome, Tibor.
Thank you, Geraldine. A pleasure to be here.
It's great to have you at Spirit of Life, and I'd like to ask you to tell us a bit more about how you came to have faith in God.
Well, frankly, my parents had me baptized and I was educated primarily here in Australia, in Catholic schools, and that proved to be a very good foundation for the rest of my life. And a lot of what I learned back at school, I've remembered.
Yes.
And at times it's been extremely beneficial, and it's helped me through quite a few difficulties and challenges as well.
What aspect of faith has helped you get through your life? Is it God's love, forgiveness, or something like that?
It's actually faith in God, yes, but faith in myself, or faith in the actual knowledge and understanding that we are all children of God. And as such, we can actually, we are able to access the wisdom, the love, the compassion, and the ability of God to actually have a happy life.
It's a great perspective because in a sense your faith in God has given you confidence in your life.
Indeed, yes, indeed. As somebody did in fact remind me the other day that every problem has a solution. And it's when we start to doubt that we can solve a problem, or if we start to doubt that we aren't able to access the support to help us solve a particular problem, that's when we're in trouble.
Yes, I know you from the theatre, and you suddenly have a gift of being quite assertive, and that must come from your confidence in God.
It does come from that. At least initially it came from there, but I used to, it takes practice also. So faith takes practice, and faith in God, faith in myself, faith in ourselves also takes practice. And so even if we are tempted to doubt that we are able to meet the challenges or solve the problems that we are faced with, we need to remember that we can't allow that to continue. We need to make a decision and a choice that I have the faith in God and myself that I can actually solve whatever problem or meet whatever challenge is needed to be met.
That's great. Do you belong to some faith community or group?
Well, at the moment I'm very much part of the Call of Guadalupe group. This actually is a group that encompasses a range of different parishes. I tend to not limit myself to any one parish or any one church. In fact, where I live in Melbourne, I'm surrounded by churches, Catholic churches. I even go to St. John's in Mitcham, which is the actual parish in which I grew up. And so I just find that to be more interesting, even more exciting, and I like the variation. So And so really it's about a broader community, and I have to say that that the Call of Guadalupe Theatre Group has actually helped me to embrace that more over the last 6 years because of the people that it attracts into its programs and also into its theatrical performances.
Yeah, that's great.
So my life, my world has really expanded a hell of a lot just these last 6 years.
Before you got involved in the theatre, what kind of work did you do?
Well, I first started to study acting or performing way back in about 2002. And a close friend and spiritual teacher, is probably one way to describe him, actually suggested that I should study acting, or you should study acting, Tibor. And I thought to myself, well, hey, what a good idea. Why didn't I think of that? And so I started to do that. And but I got caught up in the image of the whole thing. And when I kind of realized that I wouldn't be the next George Clooney, then I kind of became discouraged and went away from it. And I came back to it, then went away from it. And this went on for probably, well, in fact, quite a few years, until I met you and your dad. And I had been working in sales and marketing for quite some time by then, and I was involved in different industries. I was involved in the health industry, the medical diagnostic industry, the bedding industry, and so I became quite good at what I was doing in terms of sales and marketing, but I was still scared about being on stage, frankly, and I became involved with a group called Stacks of Snacks. This is going back to about 2010, and I needed a part-time job to supplement my income, and this involved going into businesses cold and asking them to take on a charity box, and that exposed me to so many different situations and so many different people that it was actually quite instrumental in me ultimately becoming very comfortable on stage.
Thank you, Tibor. We're going for a break now. You've been watching Spirit of Life. Stay with us and we'll be back after the break. Welcome back to Spirit of Life. My name is Geraldine Lee, your host, and our guest is Tibor Deheny. He's the Publicity Co-ordinator of Call of Guadalupe Theatre Group. Welcome back.
Thank you, Geraldine.
Oh, it was very inspiring to hear about how faith has helped you to build confidence. Can you give an example of where you were struggling with confidence, but then you found your faith helped you? If you can think of something.
Well, in fact, my biggest challenge that I've actually had to face and overcome has been that I had a fairly embarrassing speech impediment from a very early age due to a fright that I had experienced, and so consequently, whenever I was put under stress, or if suddenly the focus was on me, then I would find it very difficult to actually talk without stammering. And this was such an embarrassment to me that I used to try and do anything to avoid people actually seeing that I was stammering or a stammerer, and so I spent a lot of years trying to. First of all, I knew that there was a way through this. I was determined to get through this, and I would deliberately put myself into situations that would challenge me. almost to prove to myself that I could actually talk without stammering, even in a very stressful situation. And I can remember I went back to St John's Mitcham one Sunday about, oh my goodness, it's about 35 years ago, to actually get up in front of the congregation and promote a particular fundraiser. And I had a lot of difficulty, and I was surprised that people actually understood what I was talking about. It was quite a successful fundraiser on the day, so I thought, well, they must have understood what I was saying. And I kept on trying to find solutions. I would try one thing and then another, and it wasn't until I started to do acting classes.
Wow, that's amazing.
And what was interesting about that, this is going back to about 2002, and I can remember the acting coach there, telling me, well, I'll tell you what, Tibor, if you start to stammer, then just let it happen. And so that's what I did. If I started to feel like I was about to stammer, I just let it happen.
Wow.
And guess what? Suddenly it ceased to be a problem.
Wow, that's amazing. That's great.
And yes, it ceased to be a problem simply because I allowed myself to stammer if indeed it was going to happen, or if it wanted to happen. And then as I allowed it to happen more and more, it just ceased altogether.
Wow.
Now that wasn't the only strategy. It was also about putting myself into situations. That's why acting was so powerful for me, because I was performing, I was on stage, I was in front of people. Even in acting school, it was still about performing and being in front of people. And so that really was the turning point.
Wow, that's amazing.
For me personally. And then by the time I found the Call of Guadalupe theatre group, and when I walked into that workshop where I first met you and your dad, I hadn't actually done any performing on stage for about 5 years. And then I can remember in that particular workshop, your dad asked us to get up with the person on our right or left, or whichever it was, and to do something impromptu. And after I did that, I thought, wow, I really enjoyed that. And I suddenly discovered that I'd come a long way. And but it was your dad who then later on said to me, you've got potential.
Oh, definitely.
And that really somehow that, and the way he said it at the time, just really gave me that extra bit of confidence and faith once again. That yes, it's really important for us to believe in ourselves. I think this is a big part of faith, and I know that God wants us to have faith in ourselves.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
And each other. That's how we. That's how we can go a long, long way.
And you're one of our best actors, and you have the best voice.
Well, thank you for that.
You've got a deep and strong voice, and it really communicates very well on stage and also off stage too.
Yes, well, thank you for that. And it's really, I've also a big part of faith, I feel, is actually enjoying God's creation. And we are part of God's creation. And therefore it is okay for us to enjoy who we are and what we do. And even if we do make mistakes, we are bound to make mistakes. That's the only way that we humans can learn.
Yes.
Actually, is to make mistakes. And so it really ought not be something to avoid or to be embarrassed about.
Yes.
That's what I've also come to actually understand, is that it's just another stepping stone to ultimately achieving all the outcome that you're looking for.
No, you definitely I've found you to appreciate people's gifts, and that's been a good thing, very good thing, and much needed in our society. Just appreciation. Yeah, unfortunately, we live in a society when someone praises, the fear is that the other person might feel control, or what does the person want out of me? But in reality, you do that as a gift to others, don't you?
Yes, well, yes, you could say that. Yeah. I mean, I'm very because I've learned to appreciate people and their attributes and their beauty and their skill. I have no hesitation in actually acknowledging that, to their face, I should say, and if they're uncomfortable with that, well, it's something they need to look at.
Yes,
really, because it shows that they don't have the appreciation for themselves.
Yes. I need to go for a break now. You've been watching Spirit of Life. We'll be back after the break. Hello, welcome back to Spirit of Life. My name is Geraldine Lee, your host, and our guest is Tibor Deheny. He's the Publicity Co-ordinator for Call of Guadalupe Theatre Group. Welcome back, Tibor.
Thank you, Geraldine.
It was great that you mentioned about appreciation of others, and I suppose that's something of faith, and it's also something that's very human and powerful, because I know a lot of psychologists and scientists say that the power of appreciation not only helps the person who gives the appreciation, but the people who receive it also get a lot out of it, and it's actually good for your brain health, apparently. And also health, maturity, and also develops your brain and lives longer, healthier life. So it's a good way to go. So this theatre group also has, could you tell us more about the theatre group? Because I know you've got a show coming up.
Yes, so the Call of Guadalupe Theatre Group is actually named after the first musical that your dad, John Lee, wrote. And this is actually, this is the musical that to which I was first introduced back in 2016. And as I mentioned before, I hadn't really been on stage for about 5 years, and it was suggested to me to join in rehearsals for this single performance of Call of Guadalupe at a parish out in Essendon. Because we don't have enough men, and we need to have more men. And so I decided, fine, well, I should be able to just walk in there, and enjoy myself. And that's what happened. I just turned up, and I found that whole experience so uplifting and so inspiring. The musical Call of Guadalupe is an extremely life-affirming, uplifting, inspiring musical experience. And the songs and the music are just amazing from that point of view. And I decided there and then that I wanted to have more of this. So this is back in 2016, and that's why I decided to be more of a participant within the Call of Guadalupe Theatre Group. And so whenever I walk into the rehearsal room for this particular musical, it's like my energy goes right up, and I become really enthusiastic and exuberant, and it's just amazing.
And is that experienced by the audience too?
Well, from what I can gauge, yes, it is. It's almost impossible not to feel that energy, that enthusiasm, that inspiration, when one witnesses what's happening on stage. For me personally, it has been a life-changing experience, and from what I understand, it has been for many other people as well. It's now been experienced by over 30,000 people here in Australia, and also in the Philippines also. Of all the musicals that John Lee wrote, and he wrote I think another 5 or 6, this one is the one that stands out because of its message. It's actually, the actual message of this particular musical is not simply that, you know, we shouldn't have abortion. It's not just about that. That's a very simplistic view of the actual musical. This musical is about that, sure, but it's also about the sanctity of life and valuing life and appreciating life and what life gives us, and to embrace life, no matter what the challenges or what the suffering that it entails. You know, and it's very much about being able to make choices for you that you feel you want to make. That it's like you know, we are so much, you know, subjected these days to other people wanting to make up our minds for us. You should do this, you should do that, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. This musical actually has a very strong message about, no, it's if you make your decision based on what you feel from your heart you want to do, or making the choice that you feel from your heart that you want to make.
Wow.
Even if it's not popular, or if it's not fashionable, or maybe it's easier to make a different choice. You know, life might be easier if I, well, for example, if I agree to this baby being aborted, you know.
Yeah, it's not about condemning people who had abortions, is it?
No, it's not about that either, because I can understand that there are many difficult decisions that people need to make. For example, you know, the other day at Mass out at St. Joseph's, Chelsea, the priest actually told us a story about this young woman that he had come to know at his previous parish, and before he left that parish she had already become engaged and later got married. Yep. And then she fell pregnant, and the doctor said to her that your baby is at risk of severe abnormalities, and his or her quality of life will be seriously compromised, and we recommend an abortion. And they were very adamant about that, and she was adamant that she wouldn't have an abortion. And her husband, who was not a Catholic, actually was fully supportive of her choice. And you know, sometimes we are called upon to make very brave decisions, because ultimately, I feel really strongly that no matter what the challenges, if we rise to those challenges, if we make the choices that are risky, but we feel that it's the appropriate thing or the right thing to do, then our life will ultimately be happier and more fulfilled.
That's wonderful. We've come close to an end of the interview, but could the people who would like to see the show, could you tell them about the website? Just briefly what the website is, so we could give them maybe a couple of free tickets. What is the website? www.cogtheatre.org. Great.
And so if you're able to go onto that website, then you will actually find more information about this musical.
Fantastic. Because it's been such a great interview, we'd like to have you back next week. And wishing you all the best, and God bless you. Till next week.
Thank you, Geraldine. Thank you.
You've been watching Spirit of Life. Join us again next week.
Bring it to birth and blow where you will. Blow, blow, blow till I be but breath of the Spirit.